Most of you probably know by now that Cyberpunk 2077 has been delayed yet again from November to December 10th, 2020. And there's been a lot of frustration, and this time understandable frustration, given that, the game had gone gold, and they had confirmed just the day before that the game would be launching on November 19th. And one day later, they delayed the game. It's very unusual to delay a game just 3 weeks before launch, especially in the AAA landscape. And a lot of people set some time aside, took out vacation days from work in preparation for Cyberpunk 2077's launch, and a lot of those people may not be able to change those days. And so I get why people are frustrated, and I get that, these delays have happened time and again. So this is from June 18th, 2020, when the game was delayed from September to November, and then on January, the game was delayed from April to September. I get why this has become exhausting. At the end of the day, I feel like most people are willing to wait for the best version of that game, myself included. I mean, after being burned so many times by games like Marvel's Avengers and Anthem, Fallout 76, games that were rushed to launch, I will take a game that's delayed maybe one too many times, but eventually launches in a wonderful state. I'll take that any day over seeing a game launch early to middling reception and to a lack of polish. But that doesn't mean people aren't allowed to be frustrated, and especially in this case where it's so last minute, perfectly understandable. But expressing frustration and offering criticism is one thing. Sending threats to developers is a whole other thing that needs to be discussed, because a number of CD Projekt Red developers, who by the way had no influence in the decision to delay the game, have received death threats. So this is a tweet published by Andrzej Sawatsky. I probably mispronounced that, my apologies. This individual, by the way, is senior game designer at CD Projekt Red. He tweeted out, "I want to address one thing in regards to the Cyberpunk 2077 delay. I understand you're feeling angry, disappointed, and want to voice your opinion about it. However, sending death threats to the developers is absolutely unacceptable and just wrong. We are people just like you." The following day, Andre actually posted some samples of messages that he's been receiving, and you can see right here for yourself how disgusting this stuff is. People talking about, "I'm going to find out where you live, I'm going to do stuff to your family and burn you," and just, really, really disgusting, disturbing stuff from truly deranged internet cowards. And here's the worst part, this stuff's gross enough. Turns out this is the mildest messages some of the CD Projekt Red employees got. There were far, far worse ones as well. And rightfully so, Andre reported every single one and said that they will not let it go, do not treat it lightly, do not ignore it. It is serious. Another CD Projekt Red staff member, Amelia, who is a community manager, retweeted Andre's pleas and said, "I've been staring at it and thinking what to add. There's nothing more that I could add. I feel heartbroken, vulnerable, and attacked. This is not okay." And finally, Miles Tost, who is senior level designer, retweeted as well and said, "It's not like we're delaying for fun or to annoy you all. We have been working on this project for more than 5 years and pouring our hearts into it. We only get one shot at releasing this, and we want to get it right for you and for ourselves. Thank you for your understanding." It's also really important to highlight that the ground floor developers, they don't get to decide release dates and the like. That is way above their pay grade and their position. They're just doing their job in making the portion of the game that they've been assigned to, or doing whatever is required of them for the specific job that they have at the company. And beyond that, a lot of these developers didn't even know that the delay was happening, didn't find out about it until at the same time as we all did when CD Projekt Red's tweet went out. So this right here is a tweet published by Liana Rupert from GameInformer, who you may recognize because after Jason Schreier's Crunch story was published, she provided another perspective from developers she's spoken to about the way the developers are being compensated for overtime, the different work culture in Poland, and she talked about how the developers she spoke to relayed that they all agreed that in this final stretch, they would work a little harder, a few more hours and some extra days, which kind of conflicts Jason Schreier's story of developers he spoke to having expressed their kind of disdain and disapproval of some of the work conditions at CD Projekt Red. I don't think either one is lying. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, and that they're both sharing different perspectives from different developers. But Basically, she is in with CD Projekt devs. She has contact with them, and she's talked to a few people so far, but what I'm hearing is that the team at large didn't know about this and that the announcement went live to them when it went live on Twitter. If that's the case, that is wrong on so many levels. Jason Schreier corroborated this when, on top of relaying some of the crunch stories he's heard from developers he's spoken to, also relayed that all of them found out at the same time we did. CD Projekt Red sent an internal email simultaneously with the public tweet. Now, as it turns out, there is a legal explanation for this. According to Jason, the email said they couldn't share the news earlier because of stock regulations. And this is something that GameInformer talks about in their article titled Cyberpunk 2077 Devs Didn't Know About the Delay Until the Day Of. Here's why. So, according to 3 developers GameInformer spoke to, the decision to delay was a swift one after looking at the quality differences between the current gen and next gen versions. Basically, the current gen version needs a little more polish, and that's why they decided to delay a little more and give that more time so that they can simultaneously launch all of the game's versions at the same time for all players, especially given that most people right now do own current-gen consoles. And then the article adds, the decision to delay was not even discussed until Monday, October 26th, so just 2 days ago, with a decision being reached on Tuesday, October 27th, yesterday, when the announcement was made. According to Polish labor laws, and this is where the legal aspect comes in, leadership was not legally allowed to tell the whole team due to its size of over 1,000 employees without each individual signing a non-disclosure agreement. Keep in mind, CD Projekt Red is a publicly traded company, and they didn't want leaked insider information to get out there, and so the law surrounding that prevented them from disclosing the delay to everyone before they did to the public. According to one developer that GameInformer spoke to, about 90% of the studio didn't know about this, and then a CD Projekt Red representative responded by confirming to GameInformer that the Polish law is the reason behind the team at large not knowing about the delay until the day of. And then an investor call CD Projekt Red relay the following. As CD Projekt is a publicly listed company on the Warsaw Stock Exchange, our communication has to be transparent to employees, gamers, and investors, as well as in line with the regulation of Polish financial authorities and European Parliament and the Council and Commission directives. Information of such business magnitude, i.e. the delay of the release of the biggest project under development, is, until it is made publicly available, considered price sensitive and confidential because it could easily influence the potential decisions of investors. In a nutshell, the unplanned release of this information could have potentially led to market abuse and manipulation of CD Projekt Red's stock price on the WSE. Therefore, due to the aforementioned regulations, the information on postponement of Cyberpunk 2077's release date couldn't have been shared with all of the group's employees before the current report was filed and made public. It doesn't make the situation of most devs finding out about this delay on the day of ideal, but it is an explanation. GameInformer concludes by explaining that going gold, while many equate to a game being finished, doesn't necessarily mean that developers suddenly stop developing the game. They're still working on stuff, especially on potential day one patches and whatnot. And once again emphasize that the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 versions of the game, the current gen versions, still need a little polishing. So this is all very important context to have, so people understand that developers don't have a direct influence on a game's release date. They're obviously going to have their own deadlines within the confines of what their role is for the project, but the game's overall release date, those are decisions made by higher-ups. But even regardless of what developers know or don't know, there's just no excuse to send developers death threats. That is just a criminal action. Criticism is one thing, expression of frustration is one thing. Sending threats is a criminal act. Period. It is just a scummy thing to do over video games, over works of fiction. And it's not just CD Projekt Red. Many developers have faced this when a project got delayed or when something didn't turn out the way fans liked. There is a difference between saying, I really don't like this, or even saying this sucks, versus saying, I'm going to find you, I'm going to find where you are, and I'm going to do bad things to you. That's just freaking awful, and it's terrifying for developers. I'm reminded of when Laura Bailey, who played Abby in Last of Us 2, got threats because she played a character that a portion of the fan base really didn't like. It's fine to not like Abby as a character, but there are people out there who, for some reason, cannot distinguish the difference between the actor and the character. The actor just portrayed the character. Laura Bailey isn't actually Abby. She didn't actually do the things that Abby did in the game. She was acting and performing. And beyond the actors, no doubt a lot of Naughty Dog developers also got death threats because there were a lot of fans who were not happy with the game and the direction of the story. And if you watch my review, you know that I had very mixed feelings about the game and its story, and people are allowed to say, I hate the story of Last of Us 2, but sending developers death threats is just not cool for any reason whatsoever. Anyone who sends death threats aren't going to be taken seriously. Their feedback isn't going to be heard. It's not constructive in any way, shape, or form. And all you're doing is terrifying the individual on the other end, the developer, who are not going to do their best work if they're emotionally, mentally compromised. Saying, I don't like this, can actually be helpful and can potentially cause positive change. Saying, I will find you and I will do horrible things to you doesn't do anything for anyone. It just makes you an insane person. Fortunately, whenever stories like these crop up, there is always an outpour of love and support from community members who, even if they're frustrated at a situation, understand that developers often don't have anything to do with such decisions, and especially where delays are concerned, a lot of people understand that as frustrating as they can be, there's usually good intention behind them of wanting to make sure the game is ready before it's out there, before it is sold to the public. They just want to make the product the best it can be. And you can both be frustrated at the delays, and you can question the management that's going on at CD Projekt Red when delays happen so last minute, and also be understanding of the fact that developers don't play a part. Most developers aren't involved in the decision-making of release dates. And even the higher-up who is directly responsible for the decision to delay the game does not deserve to receive death threats. Having to wait a little longer for a game does not justify telling someone you're about to hurt them and putting that kind of fear in a human being, especially when the intention behind the delay is a good one. As Miles Tost expressed here, it's not like these delays happen because companies want to troll people. They happen because they are an unfortunate necessity. It's not like the people who decide to delay games don't know about the backlash and the expression of frustrations that will go their way, but they make that decision, as hard as it is, because ultimately it could pave the road for a better final product. I'm not saying that justifies 3 delays and the lapse of communication that's paved the road for the Cyberpunk Twitter page being able to say, no, it's confirmed November 19th is the final release date, 1 day before the game gets pushed back. I understand the frustration behind such an unprecedented situation. Again, people are allowed to criticize that. They're allowed to express their dissent against stuff like that. They're allowed to say, this sucks, I'm frustrated, but don't threaten people. It's only a vocal minority of people who do this, but enough people do where it does tangibly affect a developer's mental health. And a developer cannot do their best work if they're worried about some crazy person who might be serious about hurting them. Offer criticism and feedback and compliments. That stuff's helpful. Threatening to hurt someone, nobody benefits from that. It just sucks to see this happen time and again, the wrong people being threatened, and just the fact that there are threats at all is a disservice to wanting to better the games industry. Threats don't help. Offering criticism, offering feedback, offering compliments when it's deserved, that's the stuff that's actually going to be useful. That's the feedback that publishers and developers might be able to look at and using that feedback, adjust the way they do things. So to any developer who might be watching this, I say to you, keep your head held high. I wish you all the best in this final stretch of the game's development. So sorry to hear about the fact that you are getting these kinds of death threats. This sucks, I'm sure, not just for the people, but for the developers who really badly want to get this game out in the hands of players. But, they're doing the best they can, so I wish them the best. I hope they stay safe and healthy and don't overwork themselves. So this is one man's take on the vocal few who express themselves in ways that cross the lines, contribute nothing, and actually contribute negatively to the overall environment. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on the threats that devs have been receiving and some of the new information we learned about why the company announced the delay the way they did. Drop a comment, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.